Hey everybody, this is Jack again from Dicey Decisions and bringing you a new author to talk to tonight. This is Christina Gosney. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Good. Christina is an author, and if you're not familiar exactly with what we're doing here, we're going to take 5 authors who write sci-fi and or fantasy, and we're going to create their characters in the Dungeons and Dragons game, and we're going to put those 5 people together and see what happens. I won't be running the game, but I'm just the guy who's saying hello to everyone first. So, hi, Christina. First of all, before we talk about your book, because I know you could go on forever, what's the name of the book that you've got?
So the title is A Fury of Blades.
Okay. And also, before we get too much into it, what's the name of the main character?
Her name is Verena. But all her friends are Verena.
You cut out just a tiny bit. Verena?
Verena Selene, and all her friends call her Rena.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm kind of interested. Can you give us a little history of how you were presented with this idea?
Oh, for the story or for
the game?
Oh, for the game.
Yeah, with what we're doing now.
Yeah, so I was scrolling my Instagram one day, and I came across Brandy's profile, and it was an advertisement for seeking authors to use their characters in a D&D campaign. And I am an avid D&D player. I'm in 2 campaigns currently. So I was like, what an excellent way to kind of merge 2 of my passions and do a little bit of advertising for my book so that people kind of know what my story is about and who my character is. So
awesome. Well, that gives me a lot of stuff to ask you about. So let's get started. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your book and your character. Probably not too many spoilers, but what are we looking at here when we meet your character?
So my book was actually born from a desire that my friend and I were having a late night conversation after finishing some books by our favorite author. And we were talking about how much we wish there were more fae-themed fantasy books in the world. And now it's so funny because there's like tons of them saturating the market. But at the time, there weren't very many. And so I was like, we were just kind of joking about like, if we were to write a story, what would it be about? And then we were kind of talking about it, and thus my story was born. And it kind of just grew from there. So it follows 3 women. I have 3 point of view characters in my story. Verena Selene is my main character. She is a half-fae living and hiding in the mortal realm because fae are not very welcome in the human world. There's a lot of history there and mistreatment of humans over time. But she's in hiding. And the story follows her and then her best friend, Orla, and the princess of one of the Fae courts, Catrian, and their journey in discovering this sinister plot that involves a Fae king and taking over the Fae realm before heading into the human realm. And it's just about how their stories and their experiences intertwine in this like grander story. But ultimately it's about grief and revenge and forgiveness and the relationships that we build along the way to get, to where we want to be and the people that we want to become. So it follows Renna as she is ripped from her normal everyday life, where she is essentially taken against her will by a Fae, at the behest of her mother, which there's a spoiler as to why he agrees to do this. So I won't spoil that, but and it's all about how she has to kind of come to terms with this side of herself that she has never really acknowledged and has always hidden from and been afraid of. So that's her main story arc, is just trying to, discover who she is meant to be, and the person that she wants to become, and kind of shedding the life that she was forced into.
Okay. Wow. It seems very, very in depth. So, I'm trying to tie this into D&D. So how long have you been playing D&D?
I've been playing D&D for 5 years now. I think it's been 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And do you think, well, clearly D&D has inspired or at least given you ideas for your story?
Yes.
About
Yeah.
Verena.
Yes. So Verena is a very well-trained fighter. So she'll be a fighter in the campaign that we're playing. She was trained by her mother's best friend, her father figure, who lives in their town with them. And her weapon of choice is daggers. So those are some of the tools in her tool belt that she uses to flee an assassin and really just, figure out how she fits into the world and the mysteries that she's discovering.
Got it. So it should be, it's always hard to translate one character into another complete different format, but it sounds almost straightforward for you to move into D&D with this Verena.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you write fantasy?
Yeah. When I started writing, I knew that I wanted to write a book that I would read, and I read almost primarily fantasy. And when I was young, in my early teens and childhood, I grew up with Harry Potter and Aragon and Lord of the Rings and all of these wonderfully well-written and robust fantasy worlds. And it has been the most exciting and interesting way that I cope with when life gets tough. So it's fun to pretend to be a dragon rider or go on a grand adventure. So I knew that was the energy that I wanted to bring to my stories. And I also just have this love of folklore and mythology. And so a lot of my stories are inspired by mythology and folklore.
Right. And when you say mythology, folklore, that is like anything goes, which is exactly what the Feywild is. It's, I love seeing all the different interpretations of Fey things because everyone is different and everyone can also exist in the same place. It's just wild.
And there's so much possibility with it too. Like the Fey are such they're just so complex and so intriguing that you can do anything with them. The possibilities are endless there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting read. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully soon. I'm working towards publication now, so.
I don't suppose this is completely an aside, but I don't suppose you've read any of the other 5 authors' stuff.
You know what? I haven't had a chance to yet, and that's mostly because life has been busy and I haven't read anything recently. But they are on. I've added them to my TBR list, so I'm excited to dive
Right.
into their worlds and see what kind of characters that mine is going to be interacting with. It's going to be interesting, the
It
dynamic there.
should be because,
Yeah.
like I was saying before, to Brandy, 5 protagonists are thrown together in a room. All of them are the number one person in the story. What happens? This should be interesting. It could be you just all kill each other, but
I don't think my
hopefully
main
not.
character will engage in that level of, sabotage. She's a bit of a people pleaser at times and a peacekeeper. So I think she'd be the one that is like, maybe not friends, but.
Well, the really cool thing is you're gonna definitely all be in your characters' heads. It should be some really fun role playing.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of D&D actually, is just the character creation and really understanding who you're playing. One of my DMs, I handed him a 15-page like timeline of everything that my character had been through up until the point that the campaign started, like from her birth to like now. And he was like, "What the heck?" Like I asked for a page and I said, "Well,
all of this stuff got me to first level.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That's funny. Do you feel like Verena is anything like you?
Oh, yeah, very much so. And like, not intentionally. I actually wanted to write a character that was not like me at all. And then, as she was like coming to life on page, it took one of my friends like beta reading a couple chapters for me. She was like, "Christina, this is something you would do. Like, you would do this." And I was like, "Oh no." And then, and then there's a scene in the book that she is struggling with some anger. And I was like, "Oh, this is me channeling like how I respond to conflict." But it's avoid. So so she is very much like me, and that was not intentional. But I think I try to bring a little bit of myself actually into all of my characters. So there's pieces of me, even in Orla and Kat, that aren't in Verena. But yeah, because you write what you know.
Sure. I think we all do that. Whether we try to or not, we are our characters. So some of us has to be there. So you said you have 3 first-person characters. How did you choose Verena over Orla and Catrian?
So without spoiling too much, Verena is the main character of my series, even though I have these 3 very, powerful and complex women that are telling the story. And it's their story, but it's Verena's story. Without spoiling too much, you find out pretty early in my first book that there is this alluded great destiny that Rena is meant to lean into. And she doesn't discover what that is, but that's by the end of the first book, but it's part of her journey. But Kat finds a prophecy, and it directly relates to things that are expected of Verena in the future. But she is also, I think, to play her, as myself, I think she would be the easiest for me to play. She's also like the most, I would say, agreeable of my 3 main characters. The other ones are a bit abrasive. So as far as like a team-oriented mindset that D&D sometimes has to have, I figured Verena would be a much better fit. So.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, let's see. I had another question right there on the tip of my tongue and lost it.
I hate that.
Yeah. Let's see. What is my next question for you? I had such a good one. How are you feeling about the upcoming game? Let's talk about that. Are you nervous, excited?
I'm excited. I am a little nervous because playing with a new group of people is always a little nerve-wracking because you don't know people's play styles. You don't know how people will interact at the table. But I'm excited. I think that it's going to be really cool to see, like you said earlier, how 5 main characters with main character energy are going to really, interact with each other. And I'm excited to learn more about, other authors and build that community, because sometimes being a writer is a bit isolating. So to have that opportunity to build some community with other authors is really exciting. So.
Well, I'm glad you have the place wherever you said you went to talk to Brandy for the first time. What was that again? Why don't you shout that out?
It was on Instagram on her profile. Yeah, it was just like casual. I was like casually scrolling, and it popped up in like my like recommended for you section, and so it was just kind of fate, I guess.
Well, there should be a place where authors meet authors and talk about author stuff.
Yes.
Right? There needs to be.
Yes, I agree.
So how are you publishing your book? That was
so currently I am in the process of drafting a query letter. My goal is traditional publishing, but we will see how that goes. The backup plan is small press probably. But however I get my book out in the world that's the important thing to me, is just I want it in the hands of readers that need it. I just want to be able to walk into a bookstore and find my book. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It would be fun to track you through this process. I'm sure lots of people have written about it, but actually watching somebody go through the process might be interesting. Maybe not. Maybe you don't want anybody watching you do that, but
it's very, I would say it's definitely really vulnerable, because querying is really just a lot of rejection. It is, and like especially with the writers' strike that's going on right now, it's a little tricky to navigate. So I haven't actually sent out any queries yet, just because I'm trying to be mindful of how I really approach that process right now. But yeah, it's definitely very vulnerable. So I'm really bad at my social media. I'm trying to be better about it, but I try to talk about what that experience is like, and give people updates as often as I can. But yeah, it's hard to talk about, like, I sent out 10 query letters and got rejections, and now I'm back to the drawing board and trying to figure out, is it something in my letter? Is it my synopsis? Because, it's not the story. I've gotten like really great feedback from beta readers. So like my target audience is excited. It's just a matter of finding someone who believes in it as much as I do, and getting that in the hands of someone who will help me get it out into the world. So, but yeah, sharing that step-by-step process with people, I'm trying to. So my Instagram is sort of has that process going on, but
yeah, hopefully we can get all those shout outs before we sign off here tonight. So let's talk a little bit about the way you're going to create this character for your big game.
Yes.
So straight up fighter, but only daggers.
Only daggers. We're dual wielding, and I know that daggers are not like the best weapon in the game, but like it's true to character. And my character, when I say that she is strapped with daggers, like she is strapped with daggers, like she has at least like 13 on her person at all times, and her biggest belief is, if my life is on the tip of a blade's edge, then I want to be the most heavily armed, and so that's the energy that I'm bringing into this campaign with her. And with the level that we're at, she'll probably just strictly be a fighter, even though like there is more to her than just a fighter that she discovers by the end of my first book. Yeah. So
definitely not a rogue, even though you're using.
Yeah, I think I'm for sure gonna do. I think that she is a dual wielding battle master is what I'm gonna go for.
Sounds good. Do you know what level you guys are starting?
I think it's, and I might be wrong, I think it's 5.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's 5. Yeah. So
Cool.
So
So you'll have all of your Battle Master maneuvers and everything all set up. Yeah,
yes.
that's, ooh, man. How
Yeah.
cool.
And she was trained. I mean, like her Laucus, her father figure that trained her since she was like old enough to like hold a dagger. He trained her, and he was the head of the military in my world at one point. So he trained her to be a battle master, and that is like her mindset. So
Got it. I was trying to think if there's any. I don't know what all the other people are playing yet, but I
no,
wonder if
either.
there's anybody who's like just straight up evil. So far, it's only been two good guys.
That
But
would be so fun.
yeah,
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think like I love evil characters. Yeah. I think Rena's alignment is definitely neutral. Like I wouldn't even say she's good necessarily. I think she's like neutral because she's pretty, I don't want to say selfish, but she's had to hide and had to prioritize her safety her whole life. So she doesn't really go out of her way to help people unless she like has a connection to them. So
and willing to do what needs to be done.
yes, tenacious.
Very cool. Well, we're all looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
Rena, Celine step up onto our big stage.
Yeah.
The GM will be a guy named Justin who's working on the whole thing right now. I think he's planning it certainly to be a one shot, but that's extendable just in case we want to keep going.
Excellent.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it was wonderful meeting you tonight, Christina. Do you want to give us any Instagram, any social media stuff? Where do you want us to find you?
Yeah, so my my Instagram is at k.a.earnest. Let me double check, make sure that's correct, and I'm not lying to you. But that's my
You
my
best
pen.
spell Earnest for us.
Oh yes, EARNEST.
Just
So there will be updates about publishing this book, and I am working on a new project. So
ooh,
yeah.
All right, good stuff. Anything else you want to shout out, Christina, before we say adios?
No, just I'm really excited to get started and get to playing and to introduce you all to Rena. So
All right. Well, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be seeing you soon.
thank you. You too.
All right. Good night.
Good night.